Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Welcome to another episode of Chess Noob Game Reviews, where the goal is to see how a game could have been improved. In this game, my opponent played a rather unusual opening, bird's opening. We'll see how I managed that opening, and importantly in this video there's a second part where a very interesting endgame position occurred in a rook and pawn endgame. Let's go take a look. Okay, so my opponent had the white pieces and they surprised me from move 1 with f4 bird's opening. Now this is a rather uncommon opening, 0.2% of all games at masters levels, about 1% of games in the Lead Chess Community database of lower rated games. And this is, I just wasn't sure what to do against this move. And so as usual in this sort of situation, I just try to play using standard opening principles. So firstly, knight out, because I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to commit to something like d5. Now they played the knight, so now I decide, yes, I will play d5. They push d5. So now I decide to develop the bishop. Look, with the sort of a potential thinking here that, maybe I would like to castle queenside early. They now play c3. I develop the other knight, trying to develop, seeing what they're going to do. They develop another knight. I now push another pawn. And so potentially this bishop can come out, maybe develop the queen, and then I can castle either side. The opponent now decides to go for a forward attack. And I was reasonably sure in the game that this was probably not a good move, and Stockfish agrees that this is an inaccuracy. And Stockfish reckons that they should have completed development before launching an attack. Again, standard opening principles. So captures, and now I can move my knight forward, and I thought potentially this was actually quite okay for me. So takes, and now even though they've got this pawn chain, they have no development at all, while I have got a developed bishop. This bishop is likely to be able to develop soon, and again, if I develop the queen, I could, again, castle either side. So I thought this was potentially okay for me. They develop their bishop. I now push that pawn, decide to go aggressive, attack that bishop, that drops back. And I thought here there was a potential, maybe I could, threaten the bishop again, maybe even trap it. There we go. And basically causing the opponent to waste moves. That bishop has had to move several times. I've now got a sort of big kingside expansion, but I am committing myself to castling queenside. I now decide to develop that bishop. So Stockfish thought that that wasn't the most accurate move. Rather, immediately taking more space on the queenside was best. They now develop their queen, obviously looking to castle queenside. That apparently wasn't the best thing for them, even though, there is the creation of that battery. I didn't really like the look of that, so I decided to push a6 to try to block. They now, yes, long castles as expected, though, there are some potential weaknesses there in front of the opponent's king. I now push a pawn. Stockfish reckons that I could have been much more aggressive, strike straight up ahead, and potentially have an attack. And the rationale for that is, if I played c5, is that that pawn defends that pawn on e5. So if I capture, potentially I open up that diagonal for my bishop. So that was the logic there. However, I didn't see it. So, however, I've got this nice triangle of pawns, so I thought that was potentially still okay for me. They now try to bring the queen out for an attack, but there's not really much of an attack here, I thought. Everything is well defended. So here I attack their queen, and they're forced to bring the queen back. I now bring my queen out. they sort of strike out with a pawn, and again weakening, I think, the defense around their king. So I was reasonably happy with that. I pushed my queen forward. Apparently that wasn't the most accurate place because they move their queen out and we sort of end up trading queens, and that transformation is probably mostly neutral for me. So I have a bit of an advantage here, but I lose some of my advantage. I now decide to short castles, so potentially, being able to strike at the opponent's king. Though I do have some issues because my pieces here are kind of on the wrong side. You'll notice it's a very closed position. We each still have 7 pawns, and so these rooks can't really be part of the attack while we each have our line of pawns. That was an interesting move. Apparently that was a mistake by the opponent. Goes from minus 1.4 to minus 4.3. I don't think I punish it. See here with that push, that ends up closing the position. You can see Stockfish disagrees. It wants me to try to break down and open up the position. Here we go. That wasn't the most accurate move. However, that I think wasn't a good move for white either. So takes, you can see Stockfish reckons taking this way was potentially best, opening up the position. Now I finally open it up here, and here it's potentially starting to be okay. Stockfish called that inaccuracy, but I thought it was okay, to be honest. They developed their bishop. You can see Stockfish reckoned that that attack would have been better. I thought potentially we can open up the middle here, the center, but Stockfish disagreed. I thought I needed to defend that pawn. Again, Stockfish disagrees with this, and apparently that was a mistake all the way to potentially a blunder, and I lose apparently most of my advantage by this move being quite passive. That being said, the opponent shoves their sort of rook into that nook, but again, there's nothing really there that they can do. Everything is defended here. That rook doesn't really have much of an attack. So here we do some more trades. I thought I would sort of double protect that pawn. Looks like we both thought that that was a potential point of contention. Stockfish actually thinks there's no attack for white, and also suggests that for black there's no real importance for really over defending that either. So very, very interesting with Stockfish. So they're forced to retreat that now. And I now need to sort of bring my king into the picture. And here we end up mostly just liquidating the position. We do a whole lot of shuffling. And we basically, neither of us have an advantage. Here, I think we're both pretty much close to equal. Like they may have gained an advantage, I gain an advantage, but basically we're in a position where we're almost at a draw. And, I have potentially this passed pawn. The opponent has this passed pawn. Our kings are active. They've got a majority over mine. However, the position is basically drawn. So what happened here? So move forward, I take, they push forward, I move my pawn forward. Now, obviously, they'll need to attack, and here, defend, they push. Here, it's almost a bit like a bit of a stalemate here, as you can see. They give a check. I move my king. They move their pawn forward again, and here I have the opportunity to block. So I thought that was really good for me. They're now trying to open up the B file for that other pawn. I now block the promotion of that pawn, and here. At this point, this was a mistake. So it was drawn before, and now it's -2. So advantage to black. However, I needed to see the move, and I didn't. So I played that move to sort of capture that pawn, and you can see Stockfish doesn't like that move. It prefers rook to a g5, and can you see why? Yeah, because rook to g5 is a fork between the rook and the king. So basically, they're going to be forced to take. Once they take, this pawn now promotes to queen. and basically I win. Though it's still tricky because the opponent has these 2 pawns. So that would have been the better move. I didn't see it. I decided to take that pawn and they move forward again. Here I sort of threaten their rook. They move. I give a check. That forces the king there. Again, that slows down the potential promotion of that pawn. So I thought that was good for me. I now sort of go chase that rook and potentially defend the promotion square with my king. It should be noted here, we are still both actually drawn. So give a check. And now they give a check. King, check, here, check. And at this point, I thought I was winning. Rook to g2, blocking that, that rook. Looks like they have to move the rook, otherwise I will take. I thought I was winning. The opponent thought I was winning. And so they opted to capture, which is a massive mistake. Blunder, arguably, in fact, -10. The interesting thing with this position, again, is that it's still a drawn position. Like we are both 0-0-0, but can you see the best move for white? It's basically a like a puzzle. Can you see? The move that white should have made is rook to c8. And why is that the case? Well, basically, if the opponent tries to, give a check or anything like that, we will just end up shuffling. We'll end up with threefold repetition. On the other hand, if I decide to queen, white now can give a check, which basically skewers the king to the queen, and what that means, king is forced to h2, captures, and in this position, the rook cannot the rook can stop the pawn from promoting, but it doesn't have enough speed to bring the king along again as well. So basically the rook is forced to keep giving checks to prevent a promotion of that pawn to the queen, but they can do nothing else. And this is a drawn position. And that's the move that white should have made. However, as you saw, white thought they had lost. I thought they had lost. So I suppose we were in agreement. So takes, and now I've got the queen. And in this position, with the difference between a rook and a queen, is the queen does have enough tempo, does have enough speed to both give checks to prevent promotion and allow the king to come forward to support. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So that's a check. King moves, okay, into this position, which of course blocks promotion, gives a check, just moving the queen forward, gives a check, and now king forward. They try to move out of the way, check, back there, king forward. King moves out of the way, check, king forward. So every time the king is forced onto b8, my king moves forward, and effectively now we've one move away from mate. So the king is forced to this position, and that would be mate. Good game, GG. My big takeaway from this game is that I'll need to do some study in positional chess to improve. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.